comes off. Maybe like the tail, like you rip it off.
Oh God.
Mermaids do what?
Reproduce.
Don't fish like lay eggs and the male like squirts all over it?
With what? They have tails.
And it comes out of their, well, how do they eat it? How do they eat? Wait, their mouth. But no.
No, that's the person you should ask.
How do you think mermaids reproduce?
That's an interesting question. Mermaids lay eggs.
Really?
Yes,
I
like
did not
fish.
know that. Interesting.
That's how mermaids do it.
Okay.
I really have no idea.
Okay then. How do mermaids reproduce?
I have no idea.
Okay. How do mermaids reproduce?
Fucking. Why the hell?
No cameras? Anna, how do mermaids reproduce?
Scissors.
But they have no legs!
The fins! The fins!
What?
I told you yesterday. They lay eggs like fishies. No, but, okay, so the guy sticks his finger in the girl's mouth, and then the eggs come out of her mouth. And then there's the mermaid.
How do mermaids reproduce?
You see, their fins are Velcro, so they can just take them off, and then their legs are underneath, and they're like, yeah!
Interesting. Can you do that movement again?
Yeah!
Interesting. Bye.
They rub up against each other.
What?
They rub up against each other.
And then they get orgasmic, and they're like, ah!
Second. How do you think mermaids reproduce?
I don't know.
Just guess. Just guess.
Oh, no!
How do you think mermaids reproduce?
I don't want to know.
Just guess. What would you do if you were a mermaid and you met a very, very pretty mermaid and you wanted her to have your babies? What would you do?
No.
How do mermaids reproduce? And you're smart.
Well, I would say they peel away the tail, the zipper, just take it off, and then they have normal human body parts underneath.
So owe me $1.
Why couldn't Ariel just do that then?
Just couldn't breathe outside water.
Yes.
Oral. Through the ears.
Yeah, ears. Actually, they interlock fins.
Oh. Hey TJ, how do you think mermaids reproduce?
By singing.
But how? They have tails.
They don't have parts.
Oral sex.
But with what?
Their mouths.
But what about the guy?
He just sort of sits there.
Oh, I see. Interesting. So how do you think mermaids reproduce?
I think like one mermaid sees another merman, and they're like, hey baby, and he's like, hey, you want to go for a ride in my Triton car? And the other one's like, oh yeah, I love you. And like one swims behind. Obviously. Who? One swims behind and interjects his mer penis and the other mer vagina, and they're like, ah, going with the waves, and then a baby. Like 2 seconds later, and like 38,000 mer babies come out, and they're like, yeah! That's how I think mermaids reproduce.
Okay. How do you think
Really?
mermaids reproduce?
I don't want to answer that question.
How do mermaids reproduce?
By egg?
Okay, like seriously, how do they lay the eggs?
I don't know. I'm so old.
That's what my hat was.
How do mermaids reproduce?
With, I don't fucking know.
Like just guess. If you were a mermaid and you saw an extremely hot merman, what would you do?
I would rip off my tail and just I'd fuck them either way, I don't know. Maybe they have like little spermy things. Just sperm.
Alright. How do mermaids reproduce?
Oh my god! Jesus. Oh my god, I can't even think of an answer.
Like if you were a mermaid, what do you think would happen?
I guess play with the tail or something?
I guess. Justin, what do you think?
They take off their tail, and then they have legs, and then they have sex.
Oh, interesting.
Well, I tell you what the question is though before you're filming it.
How do mermaids reproduce? Running out of battery.
Oral sex.
With what?
Titties.
Oh, okay then. So the guys have babies?
Yeah.
Okay. Go.
They slap their tail fins together, and the sperm comes out the male one's tail
Oh,
and goes into the female one.
kinky. Hi, Angie.
Very kinky, baby.
Okay. What? How do you think mermaids reproduce?
They take off their fins, they have wild, raging hormonal sex, and then they put the fins back on like, yeah!
Well, first they stick it now.
What do you think? Seriously, I'm running out of battery.
I think they reproduce by... just like fish do. Yes, perfect. Their guaca and so on and so forth come out at certain times.
Okay.
Corey.
How do you think mermaids reproduce?
Already?
Don't say I don't know, you're not allowed to.
They take their dicks and they shove them inside out, and then they shove them in you.
Spencer, how do mermaids reproduce?
Don't say you don't know.
You're not allowed to say that you don't know.
They meet him.
Okay. Nick, how do mermaids reproduce?
Spencer, you going to chest today? They hug each other until sperm comes out, and then the woman puts her inside her tail.
All right, how do mermaids reproduce?
I don't know what they're fins. They give themselves a BJ.
Interesting.